Alright guys, so a few people have asked me how to use things like Simcraft and how to read the logs that we're taking from the raids. So I thought I'd make a quick video just so I don't have to keep explaining to people how these things work. I'll just basically go through them really quick. I'll start off with Simcraft. Simcraft is a program that you download from simcraft.org or simulationcraft.org. Download it from the download button. Obviously, you go for whichever build of Windows you have, 64-bit or 32, and download it from there. And then once you've got that downloaded, open it up in your computer files. Look for the application. Just start that up. Now, this is what it looks like. So I'll start off with why would we want to use Simcraft and what's it for? Basically, things like talents, items, trinkets, even entire specs if you want to see what kind of DPS output you can get depending on different fight situations. And you can then use that information to tailor what kind of gear you go for in the future, what pieces of gear you use for different situations, etc. So for example, I'm going to be using my Warlock here. It's obviously not very geared. Hasn't even got his third relic slot out yet. So yeah, just be a very basic run through of what you do. So installing the program, you also need 2 add-ons to do what I'm going to be doing here. The first is called Simcraft. It's very helpful. The other one is called Pawn. Now, what Simcraft does, it allows you to export the raw data of your character, so things like the talents you have chosen, the gear you have equipped, and your traits and things like that from your weapon. And you can import that data directly into the program for it to run the simulations. So once you've got those installed, what you do to begin with is you type in the command /simc, and it will come up with all of this pre-highlighted, so you just Control-C that. It's okay, and then reopen your Simcraft program. From here you go over to the options and click on scaling. This set up already, but for you guys, you're going to have to click enable scaling, and then the stats that are important to you. So as a warlock, I've got intellect, crit, haste, mastery, versatility selected. The rest of these things don't really matter. So just your main stats and then your off stats, attack power, spell power, stuff like that doesn't really matter to me as a warlock. So it's nice and easy. So next we go over to simulate. Now I've got one here from my Unholy Death Knight, so I'll just get rid of that. Okay, so when you open up the simulate, you'll have a blank profile. This is where you paste that information we just got. So we'll delete this and paste in our information. So that's all the information of the gear, the artifact traits, relics, things like that, enchants, everything. So it just gives you an idea. That's all the data that you need. In here, you've got other things you can, as a default, the simulation will run as a single target patchwork fight. So this is just going to be raw single target. So what I do from here is I click the simulate button, and it's going to go through and start simulating a whole batch of fights, giving us as far as what's the maximum DPS we can expect from the gear and the build we're running, and what kind of gear, what kind of stats are most powerful for our character. So I'll just wait for the scaling to finish there. It takes a couple of minutes, and quite a bit of CPU. Takes a little while. All right, so our simulation finished. As you can see here, this is the results page. So this is all the information that we got from those simulations. Okay, so it is quite a lot of information, and a lot of it, most of the time, you won't have any use for. But basically, what we're looking for here is we can see that the best possible DPS I can pretty much expect from my Warlock is 524,849 damage per second. Again, that's only ideal under ideal circumstances with the best possible procs. But what we can get out of this is we can see down here is what's called a pawn string. Now, this is what you can use to compare gear that you so possible upgrades, things like that. So what you want to do is you want to highlight everything and including the two brackets. Copy that. Now, what you do is you take this and you come back to your character screen. Now, if you've got pawn enabled, there's going to be a little button here on the bottom right of your character screen, and this is the add-on that's going to help you compare the data, or compare the items you have equipped and any possible upgrades. So you click the pawn button to open it up, and this is the home page. So what you want to do is you want to go over to scale on the bottom left here, and then click on manual. Now here you've got all the different scales that come with it by default, and usually they're based on wowhead guides that are just a very basic idea of what you should be aiming for. But every character is different because they've got different gear, obviously. So it's best to run simulations for your own character and get a better idea. So what you do is you go click import, and here you control V to paste in your pawn weights. Just click OK, and then it's loaded it in there for me. So as you can see here, these numbers, they give you an idea of how strong those individual stats are for me. So at the moment, my very strongest stat is intellect because it's rated as a 16 to 1. Then we've got haste being 11.02 to 1. Then we've got a 10.48 on crit and 10.37 on versatility, and so on and so forth. Now, that's all we need to do. So if we look at a new piece of gear or an old piece of gear, it's not going to help us. Let me just have a look at Tombstone Harris Mythic. Let's have a look at some gear that might drop for us. So as you can see there, when I mouse over the tooltip for an item, so that's the Mythic Tier Helm, it shows me how much of an upgrade that would be for my individual specs. So at the very top there, we've got destruction simulation that we ran. It'd be a 59% power upgrade over the 865 helm I've got currently equipped. So basically that's what you use Simulation Craft for. You can also do things like swapping between your talents and then running separate simulations to get an idea of how much more damage one will do over the other. You can do the same swapping between trinkets. Say I get a new trinket, I'm not sure which of the two would be a better replacement for. Just swap one in, run the simulations, etc. And when you import, simulate, and you go to put in the profile, you can click up here on the word simulate, or right click, rename it to whatever. So say I was comparing a chrono with a whispers, and that'd be what I'd run the simulation on there. Then I just create another one with, say, chrono with mastery stat stick to give me an idea of what's going on. When it comes through in the results, it'll have the same name here and things like that. So it's very, very useful for getting the nitty-gritty and edging out a bit more damage for your character. So that's it for Simulation Craft. The other thing people have been asking me about was logs. How do I read logs? How do I get information out of the logs? So VB very nicely allowed me to use him as an example. I will say now that the logs are mostly for DPS. You can use them to make your tanking better and things like healing better, but you have to be a lot more involved with them. It's much easier with DPS. So what I'll do is I'll just go into the log cabin of Discord and pick up the latest raid run. So here we've got all the bosses, and I'll just run very quickly through read a log if I was VB looking to improve my damage. So we'll just start off with Goroth, since it's a very easy boss, really. So we'll click over on damage done. We can see here VB did pretty damn well. He did 79 percentile for all the arms warrior passes on this fight. For those who don't understand what a pass is or a percentile is, it's a ranking system for how much damage you've done compared to everyone else of your spec. So this one over here, there's two passes that show up, or percentile passes that show up. So this one is for overall arms warriors. He's done 79%, so he's in the top 21% of warriors for that fight. If we look over here, he's at 59% for arms warriors of his eye level. Yeah, but whatever. We'll move on. So we see he did pretty well there. He did over 1 million DPS sustained through the fight. So we'll just click on his damage specifically. So then we get a breakdown of where all the damage, his damage was, all the breakdown. We can see here, Mortal Strike was his 31% of his damage. He cast it 42 times. And on average, every hit was for about 1.68 million. How he got 49 hits from 42 casts, but whatever. And he's got a 53% crit strike. 2% of his Mortal Strikes crit, and he missed 2% of them. So, which is a dot, it's done 13% of his damage. He's cast it 18 times. It's ticked for 235k per tick on average for a total of 140 mil. So you see here he had an uptime of 67%. Not amazing, but we'll look at other warriors in a second and compare and see just how that went down. So next up we got Execute there. He's got 19 casts of Execute, 1.25 mil damage per hit roughly, and so on and so forth. We can see here that he used 1 potion of Old War during the fight. His neck enchant. So if we click over here on summary, we can see the gear, his talents, all that sort of thing. So we'll look down at his neck. A stat neck enchant, so that's why there wasn't any damage coming from the neck enchant. And we can see all the gear he had equipped at the time, and its eye level. We can see what relics he had equipped and what they do for him. So it's a cleave relic, crit chance of execute relic, and then just damage of slam there. We can see how much damage, how much healing he did with his own abilities, things like that. how much damage he took during the fight down here, and if he dies, it'll show up over here, what killed him, how much damage it was, etc. We've got a bit more. We've got all his relic, his artifact traits, and up here his pure stats. Okay, so if we go back to damage done, so we can see that his rend up time seems a little low, and that's just a guess from me. I can't really tell you. Other warriors. So what we'll do is we'll open off on Warcraft logs how much damage is coming from other people. So we can see that the top pass from anyone was a Korean arms warrior there. I could look into that guy's thing, but all these abilities will be in Korean. I'd have to just guess based on the tool tips. So what we'll do is we'll go over here. You can see by all classes, and we can select individually the class or the spec itself and see who's doing how much damage. So we'll go down the warrior and see how everything's looking. So you can see here there's a lot of arms warriors. There's one Fury down there. So we'll look for someone from EU. There we go. So Xerxes, he's from Blackmore. He's done 1.5 million. If we look back at how much damage VB did overall, just click this little X next to his name to see the whole rate again. We see he did just over 1 million, so he's about 500,000 behind. So we go back into VB here so we can have a look at his, and we'll click on Xerxes. Okay, so there's Xerxes. He topped his raid. You can see his eye level is 930 compared to what is VB? So let's have a look at him. 920. So there's about 10 eye level difference, and that's a big difference, as we'll soon see. So we'll look back at Xerxes, click on him specifically, and look at his damage breakdown. So looking at Mortal Strike, that's his top damage as well. We'll look at he's casted 41 times, while VB casted 42. So he's getting about the same amount of Mortal Strikes off, which is good. We'll look at Execute. He got 31 executes. VB got 19. We're looking at Mythic. We'll change that. Sorry, that's my bad. What we'll do is we'll go back. Look at Goroth. I should change that to Heroic to get a better idea of what kind of damage we can expect out of VB. So here we got 7th Rawn from EU as well. Have a look at him doing 1.6, was roughly about the same. So we'll click on him, have a look at his damage. So he's got 22 casts of Mortal Strike from his kill. VB's got 42. How long was the fight? The fight was only about 2.5 minutes for them, while it was an extra minute long for us. So that would explain why this guy has much fewer casts of Mortal Strike. If we look at Rend, this guy's uptime is at 84% compared to VB's 67%, which is a bit rough. Now that could be down to a number of options. A number of issues, like maybe he was targeted by a Shattering Star a lot or something like that, and his uptime suffered. But it's basically just what we can take from that is Rend is an issue for VB. He needs to get that up. So we'll look back at Ron again. How many Colossal Smashes did this guy cast? He cast 22. VB cast 30. So it seems to be about on thing for that. So what we'll do is we'll look at this guy's his summary and see what his gear and his talent run setup was like. So this guy has best in slot legendaries, the Execute Ring, and the Bladestorm helm, which is very, very strong. He's let's see how many pieces of tier has he got. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got his 4 set. His weapon is 960. Let's have a look at VB. VB's weapon is 934, so that's obviously a big difference. And he's got his 4 set as well. His legendaries aren't quite as strong. He has got the Execute legend ring. He's got some very strong trinkets here as well. So he's not in too bad a shape. He's all gemmed up, which is good to see, and all enchanted. That's what we want. We look at talents. Where are the talents? Player talents up here. Okay. So VB's running. He's got Dauntless, Shockwave, Rend, Bounding Strike, Titanic Might, in for the kill on Ravager. Look over at this other guy. It's a very different set of, well, not very, it's very similar. But basically, instead of Ravager, this guy is running Opportunity Strikes. Your melee abilities have up to a 60% chance based on the target's missing health to trigger an extra attack that deals physical damage and generates rage. So that sounds pretty strong. Okay, so if we click on that, it just gives us, okay, so that doesn't do anything. Damage, and see if we can identify how much damage that did. Doesn't look like, yep, here we go. Opportunity Strikes did 100,000 damage, sorry, did 100,000 DPS. We look at VBs and go down to his damage breakdown. We look for Ravager, it did just 78,000. So it might be worth trying swapping Ravager for Opportunity Strikes, things like that. So another thing we'll look at is the enchants. So VB's got Mark of the Trained Soldier. He's got Mastery enchants. He's also gemming Mastery. That sounds good to me. We'll have a look at this other guy. He's got Mark of Trained Shoulders as well. He's gemming all Mastery. He doesn't have a raw stat gem. So that would be something I would look into. Maybe there's a certain breakpoint where Mastery vastly outweighs the importance of strength for arms warriors. So that would be something that would a little light on by simming our character. So yeah, he's using the same enchants. All good to see. So yeah, there's nothing really to worry about there. By the looks of it, I would suggest that VB could up his damage on heroic target fights by simply changing to Opportunity Strikes, giving that a go, and trying to increase his rend uptime. So that's pretty much how you would do things, guys. Just looking at things like damage breakdowns. Where's the damage coming from? How are different people speccing? How are different people gemming? How are they statting? Things like that can make a really huge difference in the end game. So yeah. Any other questions, guys, about looking at logs or sim crafting, things like that? Please don't be afraid to ask me questions. I'm always happy to try and help. Yeah, that's basically how you use the logs, and how much damage did I take? Where was I taking damage from? What could I have done to reduce the amount of damage taken? But that's a very similar thing. So I'll just quickly go over that actually. So we're looking at VB here. We'll have a look at what damage he'd taken by clicking on the damage taken. So we can see here 52% of the damage he took was from Crashing Comet, which isn't really anything he can have done about that. Infernal Burning, he's taken 32% of his damage from that. He got hit once, so just being a bit faster, moving out of the way would be good. That's not a huge deal. And he got the star 3 times. Look at this other guy, see how much damage he'd taken. He'd only taken damage from 2 Shattering Stars. So I'm not sure how he's managed that. I would suggest maybe they have some sort of Disc Priest and they're absorbing the damage or something. Let's have a look. Holy. Yeah, there are only 2 healing. Okay. Well, I'm not sure how they've done that then. Oh, 3 healing. 4 healing. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, you can use it to look at things like, what am I taking damage from? What mechanics am I stuffing up and taking too much damage from? How can I reduce my damage taken from different fights and things like that? So it is a very helpful tool. So I very much so suggest that you start using it. And again, if you have any questions about either of these two subjects, please don't be afraid to ask. I'm by no means an expert, but it's something I've used for quite a while now. So yeah,